parents-funded siblings, ignored me. I built my own success, uncovered their betrayal, and chose a new family over being the forgotten child. The story begins in a small suburban town in Massachusetts. I grew up in a family of 5. My parents, my older sister Emily, my younger brother Ryan, and me, Alex. From the outside, our family seemed picture perfect. We had the white picket fence, family barbecues, and holiday cards that radiated unity. But beneath the surface there was a divide, one that would shape my entire life. The debate regarding whether online education was worth it rested with me when I was 26 years old, a conversation I would occasionally recall with reflection despite my attempts to remember it. The debate regarding whether online education was worth it, one that would shape my entire life. My parents were generous, but selectively so. Emily was their golden child, excelling in academics and social circles, and Ryan, the baby of the family, could do no wrong. My parents showered them with resources, funding their every dream. Emily's Ivy League education, fully paid. Ryan's elaborate sports camps and equipment, no questions asked. Me, I was left to figure things out on my own. It started subtly. When I wanted to join the school debate team in high school, I was told, "We can't afford the travel costs." Yet, weeks later, my dad bought Ryan a brand new baseball glove signed by his favorite athlete. When it was time for college, my parents informed me that I'd have to take out loans. "It'll teach you responsibility," they said, even as they wrote a check for Emily's grad school tuition. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. But instead of wallowing, I used their neglect as fuel. I enrolled in a state university, working multiple part-time jobs to cover tuition. My days were a blur of lectures, late-night shifts, and countless cups of coffee. While my siblings enjoyed carefree summers in Europe, I was waiting tables, learning the value of every dollar. After graduation, I moved to New York City with nothing but a suitcase and an internship that barely paid for groceries. I slept on a friend's couch for 6 months and hustled harder than I thought humanly possible. Over time, my efforts paid off. I climbed the corporate ladder in tech, eventually founding my own startup. By the time I was 30, I'd built a multi-million-dollar company from the ground up. You'd think my success would change things with my family, but it didn't. My parents barely acknowledged my accomplishments. They were too busy celebrating Emily's wedding or Ryan's latest promotion. Family gatherings became unbearable. Endless conversations about my siblings, with my achievements swept under the rug. "We're so proud of you, Emily," my mom would gush, while my own milestones were met with, "That's nice, Alex." The breaking point came during a Thanksgiving dinner. Ryan, now working in finance, casually mentioned that our parents had gifted him a down payment for his first home. My chest tightened. I'd scrimped and saved for years to buy my own tiny apartment, with no help from anyone. I excused myself from the table, stepping outside into the freezing November air to collect my thoughts. Later that night, as I helped clear the table, I found an old envelope tucked away in a drawer. Inside were financial records, college payments for Emily, checks written out to Ryan, and even receipts for their vacations. My name was glaringly absent. It wasn't just neglect. It was deliberate favoritism. Confronting my parents wasn't cathartic, it was heartbreaking. "We didn't think you needed the help," my mom said, her tone dismissive. "You've always been so independent." My father added, "You've done fine on your own, haven't you?" Fine? Sure. But the emotional cost of being the forgotten child had been immense. I walked away from that conversation with a heavy heart, but also a newfound clarity. I didn't need their validation or support anymore. I'd built my success despite their neglect, and I wasn't going to let their indifference hold me back any longer. In the years that followed, I created my own family. It wasn't bound by blood, but by love, respect, and shared values. My closest friends, my mentors, and eventually my spouse became my sanctuary. These were the people who celebrated my victories and stood by me in tough times. Together, we traveled the world, built traditions, and created memories that filled the void my family had left. Years later, my parents tried to reconnect. They'd aged, their health declining, and they reached out to me for support. I struggled with the decision, torn between duty and self-preservation. Ultimately, I chose to keep my distance. "You have Emily and Ryan," I told them. "Lean on them, as you always have." Today, I live in a quiet seaside town in Europe, far from the shadows of my past. My life isn't defined by the family that ignored me, but by the one I built. And for the first time, I feel truly free. To anyone out there who feels overlooked, undervalued, or forgotten, your worth isn't determined by others. Build your own path, and don't be afraid to create the family you deserve. Sometimes the most profound bonds are the ones we choose for ourselves.